It's time to introduce our next panelist for Proposition 23. Visiting from Sacramento, we have John Kabateck. Have to work on that pronunciation. Next, visiting from, and let me just tell you what John does. He's the California Executive Director for National Federation of Independent Business. Next, visiting from Truckee, we have Steve Frisch, President and CEO of the Sierra Business Council. And let me read Proposition 23 for you. Okay, the title is Suspense Air Pollution Control Laws Requiring Major Polluters to Report and Reduce Greenhouse Gas Emissions that Cause Global Warming until unemployment drops below specified level for a full year. Suspend state laws requiring reduced greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming until California's unemployment rate drops to 5.5% or less for 4 consecutive quarters. Requires the state to abandon implementation of comprehensive greenhouse gas reduction program that includes increased renewable energy and cleaner fuel requirements and mandatory emission reporting and fee requirements for major polluters such as power plants and oil refineries until suspension is lifted. Summary of estimate by legislative analyst and director of finance of fiscal impact on state and local government. Potential positive short-term impacts on state and local government revenues from the suspension of regulatory activity with uncertain longer-run impacts. Potential foregone state revenues from the auctioning of emission allowances by state government by suspending the future implementation of cap-and-trade regulations. Okay. John, you have 5 minutes to present your arguments for Proposition 23.
Okay, well thank you very much, Dr. Jackson. Thank you everybody. My name is John Kabateck. I'm the Executive Director of the National Federation of Independent Business. We are the state's and the nation's leading and largest organization representing small and independent business owners.
Can't hear you.
I'll speak into the mic.
The largest organization, we represent about 20,000 small businesses here in California. And before taking a position on Proposition 23, NFIB, we polled our members, and they overwhelmingly voted to support Prop 23 because they do recognize that striking a balance between community, the economy, and the environment is an important objective. Unfortunately, AB 32 does not effectively strike that balance. In fact, by imposing a multi-billion-dollar energy tax, largely on small business owners when they can least afford it, it throws this important balance totally off balance, to a point where Main Street, working Californians, and families will feel the pain. To put this into some perspective, 99.7% of all businesses are small business. Small businesses create about 2/3 of all net new jobs, and small businesses are the first to get us out of troubled economic economy. Sadly, as you all may know, small businesses and California families are the ones feeling much of the pain these days. More than 2.2 million Californians are out of work, most having recently worked for a small business. 15% of all Californians are currently living below the poverty line. And as you see it in any community, here included, scores of small businesses are shutting their doors due to high costs and increased regulations. The last thing a struggling mom and pop family business can bear at this time is an untested, costly mandate that will force them to lay more people off, or worst of all, close their doors forever. And to kind of put this close to home perspective, Jeff Pardini, the owner of Hills Flat Lumber with stores in Grass Valley and Colfax, who's a member of ours, is a classic example of a business making strides to make their business more energy efficient, but also understanding the adverse impact AB 32 would have. As he's told me, he's installed high-efficiency lighting, solar panels, geothermal heating and cooling units, and skylights in his stores, and he's making efforts to make his business more energy efficient. But conversely, he also notes that AB 32, if it were to go into effect, he'd be facing about $150,000 in particulate fiber costs for the near term. And then over the next 3 years, replacing all of his truck fleets would cost him about $500,000 to $1 million. He notes that AB 32 will cost everyone more for what they buy: bread, milk, lumber, when people can least afford it. And as Jeff says, we care about global warming, but AB 32 is the wrong approach at the wrong time. So small business does believe we ought to do something about climate change, but forging ahead with AB 32 in the middle of the worst recession in decades isn't the solution. Prop 23, it is important to point out, does not repeal or abandon AB 32. It simply asks our state leaders to suspend implementation until AB 32, until the unemployment situation improves. And here's the kind of relief Prop 23 would provide to struggling businesses and families. It would stop up to a 60% increase in electricity rates, 50% increase in natural gas costs, $3.7 billion a year in higher gas and diesel costs, and it would stop a $143 billion cap and trade tax. And most important, as we hear, Prop 23 will stop more than 1 million lost jobs. It's important to note that there is nothing in Prop 23 that prohibits existing green tech companies from staying here in California, or new ones from coming here. In fact, there would be more incentive for green and other entrepreneurs to invest their money in a state that has fewer regulations and lower costs. And we're not alone in advocating the passage of Prop 23. The Yes on Prop 23 coalition includes, to name a few, the California State Firefighters Association, California Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, the Black Business Association, the California League of Food Processors, and the Los Angeles Police Protective League. We do believe, as I mentioned, we do believe in striking the right balance between community, environment, and the economy. But we also share the view that putting AB 32 on temporary hold until we can better afford it is not only good for small businesses, it is absolutely good for California families, jobs, and the economy as a whole. So I thank you for your time, and encourage people to vote yes on Prop 23.